As you heard before we went to break, President Biden has said only, quote, the Lord Almighty could compel him to drop out of the presidential race. Well, no word yet from God, but we are hearing from another man who is, now it says worshiped, that's a little strong, admired by millions. Oscar-winning actor and producer George Clooney wrote an op-ed that was published in today's New York Times saying that he loves Joe Biden, but that the Democrats need a new nominee. Susan Glasser is here to further discuss all of this. She's a staff writer for The New Yorker. Susan, always great to see you. Thank you so much for being with us. I want to start not with the politics. We'll get to that, I promise. But I want to get your assessment of the announcements made at the NATO summit, specifically F-16s, and this path for Ukraine to join NATO. Do you believe that will in any way change the calculus of Vladimir Putin and Russia, or inspire the Ukrainians to achieve more on the battlefield than they've been able to so far?
Well, first of all, as far as the F-16s go, that's important news. It is, in the eyes of many supporters of Ukraine in and out of the country, a long overdue news, and an example perhaps where the U.S. and its allies were overly cautious earlier on in the war, worried about poking the Russian bear and therefore not really delivering to Ukraine some of the kinds of capabilities that might have helped make a difference in the fight. But I think they're very welcome right now. As you know, Russia was on the offensive earlier this spring and summer. It appears that they have not made major breakthroughs against Ukraine. But, you know, again, just holding the line on a several hundred-mile front is extremely difficult. And I think those air capabilities in particular are something that the Ukraine military has identified for a long time. So I think that's a very big deal as far as on the ground. But the truth is, as President Zelensky expressed in his press conference yesterday here in Washington at the beginning of the NATO summit, Vladimir Putin, all eyes are on November and what happens in the American election. And I think that, you know, what happens at this NATO summit is important, but it's of secondary importance relative to the importance of the U.S. presidential election and whether it's Joe Biden or Donald Trump, because that's going to determine Ukraine's fate as much as anything.
You brought us right to the doorstep of politics, Susan. From your vantage point, and based on what you were reporting and writing, how probable do you believe it will be that President Biden will, come August in Chicago, be the Democratic nominee?
You know, look, if you believe anybody can tell you the answer to that question with certainty right now, they've also probably got a bridge in Brooklyn that they want to sell you. You know, as I'm sure you have had this experience too, Major, like I have talked with experienced, smart political professionals who believe with 100% certainty that Joe Biden is gone, that he is out of there, that by this time next week, he will not be the presumptive nominee for the Democrats. I have talked with equally experienced political professionals whom I respect, who say the exact opposite is the case. I think we're really in unscripted territory here. What is striking today, Wednesday evening, as we're having this conversation, is that the kind of rebellion against Biden from within the ranks of Democrats is not over yet. I think we can say that pretty clearly with the statement by former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi earlier today. So who knows?
And I'm really glad you described those conversations, Susan. They mirror the conversations I have. And what also strikes me is that they whipsaw, meaning people who are certain about one thing 48 hours ago are certain about the other thing in 48 hours later. And the ones that were certain about the other thing have moved, they've shifted around. That is to say, there is no fixed orientation to the future of a sitting president being the renominated nominee of a party.
The fixed orientation here, I think, is President Biden, who has dug in his heels, who has made it clear that he is going to keep fighting and that he is not entertaining this. Now, what veterans will tell you is, you know, he's dug in his heels until he hasn't, right? You know, that in fact, you've got to keep fighting until the very moment at which you are out of there. So it's not necessarily indicative of future events as much as it is of his present course. But everything we know about Joe Biden's personality and him as a politician suggests that his inclination is to tough it out, to power through, to complain that somehow he's just being counted out out again. I find it very revealing, these statements emanating from Biden world in the last few days and over the last couple of weeks. Well, when you're knocked down, you have to get back up. That's Joe Biden's mantra in life. The situation here, right, is that Joe Biden knocked himself down. And I will say that he's had losing presidential campaigns before, and he did know when to get out in all of those instances. But of course, he was never the sitting occupant of the Oval Office then.
Very quickly, Susan, George Clooney's op-ed, some people have described it to me as kind of an earthquake in the donor class of the Democratic Party. Do you view it that way?
Look, it's significant. Clooney was a host of a fundraiser just a few weeks ago. I thought it was very revealing that he chose to include in that op-ed the information that Biden was incredibly out of it, akin to how out of it he was at the debate. At that fundraiser, you're going to hear and are already hearing a lot of questions. Well, how come nobody said anything? And I think that is a legitimate question. Former President Barack Obama, for example, was at that fundraiser. When are we going to hear from him? We're certainly hearing from some of his former advisors of Obama who are pretty strongly urging Biden to get out of the race. But it's not over. It's not over yet.
Susan Glasser, as always, thank you very much for your time and your expertise.